Good morning on the phone. This is Andrew Lofters. I was just calling to see who is in attendance on the phone.
This is Dr. Donna Hamby.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. You could say that once again?
Yes, Dr. Donna Hamby with UT Arlington.
Good morning. I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is Dina Coots from Alvin Community College.
Good morning on the phone. This is Andrew Lofters. I was just calling to see who is in attendance on the phone. All right, Dina, good morning. I'm glad you're here in attendance over the phone. The last one that just spoke, you were very, very faint. We could barely hear you.
Yes, Dr. Donna Hamby.
I could barely hear that one, too. Could you speak one more time?
Yes, is Dr. Donna Hamby with UT Arlington.
Donna, I got you. I'm glad you're there. And you're for the DNP program.
Correct.
Okay. And I have Dina. And who else was on the phone besides Dina?
This is Jimmy Bird with Blaine College. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Jimmy. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Good. Good to have you here. Anyone else on the phone?
This is Francisco Garcia from University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley.
Good morning, Francisco. Glad you could join us. Anyone else on the phone? All right, we'll be starting shortly. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Let's start that again. If you need to go, the restrooms are on the outside in the hallway. Down in the middle, you'll be able to use them there. As I said, there's an envelope in front of your seat that is available for you to put your money in for lunch. Please pass them to the ends of the dais so that Ms. Christina Kelly, who I thank very much for all her work for this meeting, can come and pick them up. We have also a little slip in front of you for travel expenditures. At the end of each year, the chair presents activities from the Ltac to the board, and part of those activities that are reported are the expenditures that Ltac members incur in attending these meetings. So if you would fill these out, we make a report and we try to estimate as close as we can as how much it's costing to host these meetings here at the coordinating board. That's what that expenditure slip is for. I believe that is it. Oh, thank you. There's coffee and water over here on the table. If you desire some, please, anytime, go ahead and indulge yourself. At this time, do you have anything else? We go right on to the agenda and into Dr. Duran for welcome and introductions.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's great to see everyone present. We are glad to have you with us, knowing that you weathered the storm well. We do have some colleagues that are on the committee that are not able to join us today because of recent events in Houston, and our heart goes out to the people in Florida as they brace for the incoming storm. So we're glad that everyone is here, and we have a lot of great work to accomplish today or get started. And we'd like to start with introductions, as there's a lot of new faces around the table, so that we can go ahead and get reacquainted and introduce and get to know our new members. Starting with, I can introduce myself. I am Michelle Duran, the Assistant Vice President for Teaching and Learning for Texas A&M University-Kingsville.
Onita Burgess. I'm the director of the REACH Program Center at the University of Texas at the Permian Basin.
Marcela Ramirez. I'm the Director of Online Learning at the University of Texas at San Antonio.
Good morning. I'm Jacqueline Mock, Vice President for Academic Faculty and Student Affairs at University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio.
Good morning. My name is Ana Peña. I'm the Distance Learning Manager for South Texas College.
Good morning. I'm Justin Louder, and I'm Associate Vice Provost for E-Learning and Academic Partnerships at Texas Tech University.
I'm Alicia Wyatt. I am the Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at McMurray University.
Janet Camps, Coordinator Distance Education, Stephen F. Austin State University.
I'm Josh Book. I'm Assistant Director of Distance and Extended Learning at Texas State University.
I'm Linda Murphy. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning with Technology at Texas Women's University.
Hello, I'm Pam Morgan. I'm the Director of the Center for Continuing Professional and Distance Education at Midwestern State University.
Hi, I'm Mark Garcia. I'm the Dean of Strategic Initiatives at Collin College.
I'm Ken Craver. I'm the Director of Distance Education at Tyler Junior College.
And I'm Andrew Lochters, Program Director with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, Academic Quality and Workforce Division.
And it's great to have everyone here once again. We will be officially calling the meeting to order at this time with a very important first step, which is to elect a new committee chair. Mr. Patrick Plesh, a longtime colleague and member of this committee, has no longer going to continue with his commitment to this committee at this time. He will be hopefully joining us again sometime in the future representing UNT. So at this time, we will be entertaining nominations for the committee chair for this group. The eagerness is quite, I know, it's taking me back too, but any nominations for chair of the committee?
Michelle, this is Francisco from UTRGV.
Yes, Francisco?
Are we able to also nominate chairs from?
Yes.
Well, I would like to nominate Michelle Duran for the chair of this committee.
Thank you, Francisco, for that. We have a nomination on the floor.
I'll second the nomination. Onita?
Other nominations?
I move we close nominations.
I can't. Okay, we are going to close nominations. All in favor of me assuming the chair position of this committee, please signify by an aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you very much for that, Dr. Garcia, and all of you. I appreciate your support very much. It may not sound like it, but I truly do. It's deep inside. Now we will go ahead then and need to elect a vice chair. So floor is open for nominations for the vice chair position.
Madam Chair, I nominate Justin Lauer.
Okay.
I will second that nomination.
Any other nominations? I move to close. All in favor of Dr. Louder assuming the vice chair position for the committee, please signify by an aye.
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 Congratulations, Dr. Louder. Okay, so now we will go ahead and move on to consideration and approval of our summary notes from our May 26th meeting. You do have a copy in your packet, so if you'd like to review those, take a couple of minutes. And whenever you are ready, we will entertain a motion to approve the minutes at that time.
I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded at this time. Is there any discussion on it? Moving to a vote, all in favor of adopting the minutes as presented, please signify by aye.
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 Any opposed? Minutes have been approved as presented. Our next item will be led by our chair of our review of the doctoral proposed programs for fully online delivery, and we will have Dr. Mock go ahead and lead us in that discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have before our committee 3 proposals for doctoral distance education programs, 2 from the University of Texas at Arlington, 1 from the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio. These were discussed at the committee level, and I want to invite our colleagues from the University of Texas at Arlington to make a brief comments, if they would like, about the distance education doctoral program, the PhD in physics that's being delivered in the Valley. So if you would like to proceed.
I'm Alex Weiss, and I'm chair of the Department of Physics at University of Texas at Arlington. And
I'm Ramon Lopez, professor of physics at UT Arlington. I'm chair of the Joint PhD Program Committee with UT-RGV. I'm also chair of our Graduate Admissions Committee.
So I would characterize our program as not fully online. In fact, it's has an online aspect to it, and but it also has a in-person aspect. The students participate in the UTA classes mostly through an online. It's not required, but they could attend in person as well. But they participate in our PhD courses through primarily through online means. But these are courses that are offered, our regular courses that are offered to our own PhD students. The students come into the program from UT-RGV. Typically, they have already gotten a master's degree there, and then they do coursework with us. They take our diagnostic exam. They take our comprehensive exam. They fulfill all requirements and meet all the admission standards of our PhD students. The additional feature is that these students typically have started research at UT-RGV. They have world-class research facilities and world-class mentors there. And so these students have already started their research there, and this program allows them to continue doing research at UTRGV under the mentors there. And typically they work in laboratories or in research facilities at UTRGV, just as our PhD students do up at UTA. And it's the PhD degree is very much a research-oriented degree, and they're expected to do original research and write a dissertation. And so the program is actually gives an opportunity to students in the region of the Rio Grande Valley to continue to do research there and get their PhD and under our auspices at the UTA, and with the quality control and on all that available through us, through our program. And these students constitute about 10 to 12% of our total PhD student population. Our PhD program is ongoing. It's been in existence for 33 years now, and so right now we have 10 students in the cooperative program with UTRGV and 50 students on campus at UTA, and we expect to graduate the first 2 students out of this program in the next year or so. So we have students in this program, and they're making good progress towards their degree. And there are a few, there's always some technical issues, but it seems to be working quite well.
Thank you. So the proposal that's come before the Learning Technology Advisory Committee is that you are moving over to 50% of the program content being delivered away from the Arlington site. So having offered the program before, you're actually going over the 50% threshold, which is why the proposal is coming back both through the subcommittee as well as our formal committee. So thank you very much for those comments.
If I could, I wanted to add that this type of proposal for us is really an off-campus proposal, because really they're offering, the students will be at our UTRGV, as Dr. Weiss says, but they were also, like you said, online. What I read from the proposal was that it was more electronic to group. They were getting coursework from courses at UTA, but just being it's being pumped into there.
Yeah, typically they live stream. I mean, I think Ramon can talk to that. He's taught some of these courses.
Yeah, in fact, I taught one course last spring in graduate course in space plasma physics. They have people who do ionospheric physics down there. They have world-class facilities. They have a public-private partnership with SpaceX for a facility there to do tracking of objects, and that includes studying the ionospheric physics of the radio wave transmission through the ionosphere. But they don't have the capability to have a standalone space plasma physics course. We do. We have a strong space physics component in our department. So there were 2 students that joined 8 students at UTA last spring, and that was done primarily with Skype, where they would Skype into classes to see the lecture portion of the classes, and my classes always include a significant amount of small group work in class for problem solving and discussion, and I would just carry over the laptop so they would sit with other students, as it were, in these groups of 3 or 4. And that way they got to know the UTA students. And so all of the graduate courses that we offer that they take are ones that they are unable to offer directly there. And that's why they don't have a standalone PhD program, because they're still building to that point of scale where they can have a standalone PhD program. So our function in this is to provide those extra courses that they take through this distance learning arrangement while they do their research there with faculty who are approved to be members of our graduate faculty by our Graduate Studies Committee. And as Dr. Weiss said, we have the standard quality controls first at the admission point, and since I'm the chair of our graduate admissions committee, I can tell you we review those applications and we discuss with the faculty down there who are writing the letters of recommendation to make sure that these students will be able to pass courses that they take from us, as well as our graduate qualifying exam, which is a requirement for proceeding to PhD candidacy. And they get the same exam as our students, proctored by their faculty and returned to us and graded by the committees that create these exams with the same scale as we grade our own students. So we're confident of the quality of the students down there being equal to ours. It's just that they're doing their research off-site. Now, I should say that that is not the only place where you find research done off-site by our students, because we have a large high-energy physics group, which is part of the ATLAS experiment at the Large Hadron Collider in CERN. And we're actually one of the ATLAS Tier 2 data centers, very large active group. They send their graduate students to Geneva to spend a year there. All of the students who go there spend time there. So we have other case where we have students actually off-site doing their research, but they're receiving the PhD from us.
Yeah, so the over 50% part, I guess, is when the students are doing research. So the PhD requires typically 2 or 3 years worth of research. So they're taking research courses with typically with UT-RGV faculty, who are then, those faculty are what we call adjoint to our faculty. They're vetted by our Graduate Studies Committee and appointed as associate members of our Graduate Studies Committee at UTA. And so the courses, they are the instructor of record of the research courses that these students are taking. So that's how the over 50% off-site occurs. And then, of course, most of them do take their coursework through this remote site.
Some of the courses are offered there, and then some of the courses are offered at UT Arlington. I mean, it's a mix of the core graduate courses. So, for example, this semester I'm teaching one of our core graduate courses, classical mechanics. I don't have any UT-RGV students in that course because they offer that course locally. So those students would take that, and that usually is actually a course that you would take in your master's. So the students who come to the joint PhD program typically have done the master's at UT-RGV before they apply to enter into the PhD program through the cooperative program.
Thank you. Any discussion from members of the committee?
So will the degree be awarded by UT Arlington, UT RGV, or is it a dual award degree? Because you're saying they're taking some classes at UT RGV, some classes at UTA.
So all the courses that they take once they're in the program are actually UTA courses. So so if they take a course from a professor at UT RGV, like they taught a course in relativity, general relativity. They have a world expert in general relativity.
Actually, some of our students took that course.
Yeah, some of our students took the course remotely from that professor down there. But all the students, the ones in this program and the ones who are not in the program on our campus, they all take UTA courses. So even when they're taking a research course from a faculty member down there, that's a UTA course. The degree is granted by UTA under our existing PhD program. So in almost all aspects, these students are regular students. And they could, if they so chose, they could come to UTA and work under a professor at UTA. And if some of our students at UTA so chose, they would have the opportunity. We did have one student go down there for a summer, doing some special research in general relativity down there. So this program actually provides an opportunity for the students at UTA as well to go down there. So, but to answer the question, the degree is granted by UT Arlington under our PhD program, and it's not a dual degree program. And all the courses are officially UTA courses. We have some financial arrangement when they actually teach one of those courses, when one of their faculty teaches one of those courses, there's some financial arrangement between the schools to help compensate for that. But all the courses are our courses. They're listed as our courses.
And that's why they enter in as the masters, because some of those core graduate courses that are taught down there and that are UTRGV credits are in that master's program. But as Dr. Weiss said, once they entered the PhD, then they're taking these additional courses, which we offer.
Go ahead.
One of the primary concerns for programs that are delivered at a distance are the support services. So those students are admitted into UT Arlington, correct? So, but they may be present at the UT Rio Grande Valley. So if the student is taking courses from your institution, how are they going to receive their services at UTRGV? Have you all worked out that agreement so the support services on campus at UTRGV are available for your students that are UT Arlington students for the program? That's not clear in your proposal.
Yeah, so the library is typically not an issue because in physics, all the journals are online now, and so they have access to the library. I think a bigger problem for the students might be the gym, because they don't have the gym, but I believe all the students in this program are actually employed either as research assistants or as teaching assistants at UTRGV. That's their official status at UTRGV. So they're actually employees of UTRGV, and they gain access to the facilities at UTRGV through that status. Their email comes from UTA. I think their health insurance, if they choose it, or comes from UTA. All that. So. We have been streaming our colloquium. We have a weekly colloquium for research colloquium where we present latest research to the faculty and students, and that's available to these students online through streaming. What did you have a specific question about which a specific support service that they might? I mean, we try to foster interaction between their students and our students. I mean, that's an important aspect.
Really, for graduate study in physics, there are no academic support services other than students and faculty. So it's not like an undergraduate who might want to have access to a physics clinic or a math clinic to help with issues like that. So we make every effort to get the students to be able to communicate with each other in their classes. And so, for example, in the class that I taught, the first thing I did is made sure that everybody had everybody else's email address so that they could communicate. And then in the joint problem-solving sessions in class, I would have the two students down there solving a problem with one or two students at UT Arlington by Skype and rotate that around so they got to meet the other students. So those are, in terms of academic support, sort of the main kinds of things. The other support services like library and such, Dr. Weiss has addressed. But yeah, do you have any other particular support questions or?
Well, the question becomes now that you have students that are employees of UTRGV, but if the program grows, and so you have students that apply to the program that are not going to receive the benefits of being a UTRGV employee, what service, that's where the questions needs to go. Or what services are those students receiving from UTRGV that need to be addressed by UTA if they are not employed at
We would not
UTRGV?
accept a student into the program who is not going to be an employee, just in the same way that we
Okay.
do not accept any student into our PhD program who we are not going to fully fund.
All right, understood. Thank you.
Yeah, so the program was set up sort of with this in mind, that this would be for students who were chosen by both campuses in some sense. So UTRGV has identified these students as people who are, who are qualified and interested, and most, I think in all cases, have already begun research in a program down there. And we don't envision the program growing beyond sort of its current size is about, we're now up to 10 students.
It might get to 12, but I can't see that in terms of the faculty down there who've been admitted to our graduate faculty, the amount of resources that they have, I can't imagine it growing much further. And again, we simply do not accept students into our PhD program for whom we do not have adequate resources to make sure that they have tuition, stipend, and research expenses covered.
And the experientially, as far as the educational experience, the students down there are part of a research group. They're working with directly with a research mentor. They're working typically full-time in the lab or in a theoretical research, and it's very much the same, similar experience as students on campus at UTA. That students on campus at UTA, once you're done with your, you pass your qualifier and so on, you're working in a small group with directly with a professor as a mentor on, on independent research. So in all those aspects, it's the same as what we have at UTA. So it's not really, it's not like an online course, online program where you're working totally on your own. These students are working directly with a research mentor on a daily or at least weekly basis. That'd be very much like they would if they were up at UTA. So I think that's the key support service that students need is that research mentorship, and that they are getting.
All right, thank you. These questions will also come up from SACS, just by the way.
From SACS?
It's SACS,
yeah.
SACS.
Yeah.
So just to clarify that, and to Oneida's point, so the academic support services that you provide, I think, are very laudatory. Graduate students, as you know, even in your face-to-face program on campus at Arlington and across all our campuses, whether they're undergraduate, 2-year, 4-year graduate students, they may have other support services, whether it's student counseling, student health, as you had mentioned, that. So it is that component that the degree awarding institution has an obligation to provide to students at a distance. So what I hear you saying is that because these students also are UTRGV employees, their access to comparable services comes from them being an employee rather than being a student. So that if they needed mental health wellness concerns progressing through the program, they would go through the employee assistance program. If they had a health issue, they would go through either their insurance provider or employee health and wellness. That's the intent of the question, as I understood. And is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I mean, they would be allowed to have access to whatever services that are on our campus if they so chose to come up, but it would be, it would probably not be convenient for them to do that.
But as employees of UTRGV, they have access to all of those kinds of services there locally.
Any other comments? Yes.
My question is specifically about the feedback to students after they've taken an exam. So specifically in the proposal, it states that the online sessions will be handled via Skype and that there'll be monitors at UTRGV who proctor exams and then scan and send the exam papers to the professor, but there's no mention of how the grades and feedback for those exams are communicated back to students. And I guess my question is in regards to FERPA compliance, how those grades and the feedback on the examinations would be communicated back to students.
All students who take our qualifying exams get feedback directly from the chair of the Graduate Studies Committee indicating whether they passed the exam or not. We actually have 3 categories for the exam. One is outright pass, the other is outright fail, and the other is in the middle. And if you score in the middle, then you can have an oral examination. But students have to take the exam 2 times and either pass or score in the oral examination area for the 4 sections of the exam, covering 4 major topics in physics. So the students at UTRGV get exactly the same information and feedback as the students at UT Arlington. Now, I should say that the students at UT Arlington want more feedback. They, in fact, I just met with graduate students yesterday, and one thing that they want to propose is that we give more feedback in the form of some written guidelines to what more might, what should they really be studying for the qualifying exam, because right now we don't give them a whole lot of guidance, and I can understand why they would want to have more guidance on that. But whatever feedback we will give to UT Arlington students, we will give exactly the same feedback, the same preparation, the same materials to UTRGV students.
I guess just to clarify, so that's for the qualifying exam, but there's still courses that I believe the UT or the students at UTRGV would be taking, where they'd be taking more traditional exams that are on paper. Yes. And I guess to clarify, my question is regarding how they would receive both feedback and grades for those particular types of exams.
I can tell you how I did it in the spring, because the exams I gave were take-home exams. So students received a PDF. I told them there's a time window, and then they have to write down their start and stop time and say that they neither gave nor received assistance on the exam. They email that exam, scan it, email it back to me. It had to come from their official email address. I then graded that exam, annotated that exam, and then emailed it back individually to each student. So each student received exactly the same exam structure and exactly the same exam feedback from me directly as the instructor. Then in the subsequent class, I went through the exam in class, and so they would see the same thing because the laptop was there and they were seeing me give that talk from Skype. So at least in my class, the students received exactly the same kind of structure and feedback.
Francisco, did you have some comments to add? He's representing UTRGV as well.
Correct. This is Francisco Garcia. I'm the director for Center for Online Learning and Teaching Technology. And while you were having this conversation, I got a call from my deputy provost, who is responsible for the agreements between institutions. And she assured me that the cooperative agreement between UTRGV and UT Arlington is still pending on expansion for this program. So she wanted me to mention that into the committee.
Are there any other? Yeah, we're not, Francisco, we're not sure what that means. If you could clarify that.
Yeah, that my deputy provost is the one who signs agreements between universities. In this particular case, UT Arlington, UT Brownsville agreement, UT RGV agreement. And she just told me that there is no agreement signed to expand this program between Arlington and Rio Grande Valley.
So I think I can clarify that. So we signed an MOU with UT Brownsville 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and and then when the merger occurred, there's a new MOU was drafted, and that's still being negotiated. That has to do mostly with the question of how the tuition dollars will be apportioned in the case of courses taught by UTRGV faculty to, basically that's it. Courses taught by UTRGV faculty to UTA students. So all the people in this program are officially UTA students. And But UTA students are under the UTA program are able to take courses at UT-RGV because we've accredited, we go through an accreditation procedure, like a SACS accreditation procedure, and we accredited their faculty, some of their faculty there, to teach courses at UTA. So there is a question, there's still some negotiation going on. I think they're getting close to solving the problem. There was an original arrangement under the MOU for tuition reimbursement back to UT-RGV, and I think when the merger happened and there was a need to renegotiate, there was some desire on our administration to want to revisit the tuition reimbursement question. So I think that they're going to work that out. Meanwhile, the students are UTA students, and they're in good standing, and they're making good progress. So I think we're looked upon that way. These are UTA students who are taking some portion of their education remotely at a remote site.
I'm just going to ask a question either to Andrew or the coordinating board staff in the back, because this appears to have a pending MOU discussion between the schools involved. I'm wondering if we should table it until the schools work out the agreement and then revisit.
I say, here's why I'm looking at it. There's one option, I guess, would be to table it, or you could actually approve it conditionally. Is that possible? That based on this, we could approve it on the condition that this is actually approved by the UT-RGV provost office. You know, once that is in place, then the program would be fully approved. Is that an option?
Could I just come at it a different way? So there are a couple of thoughts in here. If I hear you correctly and understand the proposal, these are UTA courses in a UTA degree program with UTA faculty members. Some of the UTA faculty members may also have an affiliation with another institution, potentially UT-RGV, but they are, in the case of the program, UTA faculty. They may share an appointment. I think
yes.
you see
And
what I'm saying, right?
Their primary affiliation is...
For the purposes of this program, they are UTA faculty teaching UTA courses for a UTA degree program.
Right.
My question would be, are you at the point now where we are needing to approve because it's over the 50% threshold, starting in the fall semester?
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
Right. So I don't know if that helps or doesn't help committee members.
I think it makes more sense to let it move through this committee so that the MOU agreement can be put into place, and let the next group make sure that piece is in place before it moves forward.
It's an existing program, is that correct? And that's a delegated authority, that if Ltac approves this, it doesn't need to go to cause? Is that correct, to the Committee on Academic?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's correct. So now, my question would be, is the MOU, the delay in the MOU, is that because this program is not approved to be an off-campus program at RGV, or is it just because of the financial discrepancies that you were describing earlier?
Yeah, I would say the latter. It's
always the money.
I think they would, and I think they're close to working it out. You know, we've had some changes in we've had a new provost. They've had a lot of changes at their campus. So I think the actual time spent negotiating has not been a lot, even though it's taken over a long period of calendar time. They haven't really talked a lot yet, but I think they're working it out, and I think UT-RGV would, probably feels has more incentive to work it out in some ways, because they're at the present time, the tuition is being paid to UTA because these are UTA students, but they are providing support to the students through the employment as graduate GRAs and GTAs, and their faculty are also teaching they're teaching the research courses primarily, and they would like some compensation for that. But I think that we're in the last stage of negotiation on. It's actually a renegotiation. I would say that we are still operating under the prior MOU, and UTA has actually made payments under the recently made payments under the prior MOU. So I think the prior MOU is still in effect, but it's since they they combine their campuses, it should be renegotiated.
Your packet also includes a letter of support from the UT System office dated December 2016. So if that brings any ease to people's mindset of the support from the system itself. At this time, we can close discussion if everyone is comfortable with that at this point. Passing it over again for recommendation from the committee chair.
So the recommendation during the summer discussion was to recommend approval of this proposal. So I move that the full committee approve this proposal from UT Arlington for their PhD program taught at a distance at the UT Rio Grande Valley campus.
Is there a second? Second. Been moved and seconded. At this time, we will call for a vote since we did have extensive discussion. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And members on the phone, I want to make sure that you also do have a vote on this, so please express your votes as well.
I'd just like you not to vote this time for this approval.
Abstain from Dr. Garcia?
Jimmy Byrd, I approve.
I think we're only down.
Christina Coates, aye.
Okay. At this time, the motion does pass, so congratulations to UTA, and best of luck as you continue to grow your program in physics.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to our next item, another program from the University of Texas at Arlington proposed Distance Education Doctor of Nursing Practice Program. Dr. Mock?
Yes, I invite our colleagues. I know Dr. Hanley, you're on the phone, and Dr. LaFord, I don't know if you wanted to come forward either, or did you want to just rely upon the phone dialogue for any just brief presentation about the DNP program that UTA is presenting?
Yes, ma'am. If you don't mind, I would like the opportunity. Oh, you want me to come into the mic?
You can be me or Alex.
I can be Alex or Ramon. Okay.
You have a nameplate right in front of you.
I take my name with me?
Yes.
Oh, just the thing. I'm sorry.
Looks like I got voted off the island.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the committee for considering our proposal and allowing Dr. Hamby and I the opportunity to speak to you and answer any questions you might have. Just as baseline information, as the Associate Dean and Chair of Graduate Nursing at UTA, I would like to give just some foundational information about our college and some of our experience in delivering online education. We have been delivering online nursing education in accelerated formats since 2008. We have a history of robust programs delivering our content content with great success. Our nurses at every level have been successful in the programs. Our undergraduate nurses, our NCLEX pass rate is greater than 90%. Our nurse practitioner programs that are online, our certification pass rate is greater than 95%. So we have a good history of delivering programs online. Our DNP program, current DNP program that is on campus, is a hybrid program. It's been in place since 2009. We've had great success with the program. The curriculum for the program was based on the American Association of Colleges of Nurses essential content for doctoral education. It is also based on the National Organization of Nurse Practitioners recommendations and competencies that are published by that organization. Just this past October, the Commission for Collegiate Nursing Education was on campus and re-accredited our on-campus program for another 10 years. So with that history and background is what is that foundational for our development of our DNP online program. Dr. Hamby is online on teleconference here with us. She is the director of our program. She is actually a DNP and has practiced as a DNP and oversaw the development of the program itself. She and I both are available to answer any questions you might have about the program. Dr. Hamby, did you have anything you wanted to comment before the committee?
Yes, thank you. And thank you to the committee for hearing our proposal. I wanted to emphasize that the purpose in carrying it to a total online program is to meet the needs of the students that we're trying to attract. This is a practice degree, and they are out there working full-time. So the ability to take time off and come to class is very difficult. Plus, we're able to serve students that are in the far reaches of Texas. Texas is a huge place, so we're up in the North Texas area. So this way we can serve any student that is interested in the program. We're very directed. We have each of our courses were developed by faculty who had expertise in that area. Our faculty all met with consultants, educational consultants in the pedagogy and technology that we needed to embrace. Each of the courses have met the standards of Quality Matters as by for distance learning, and we have rigorous assignments, rubrics, and to provide feedback.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from members of the committee?
So I have a couple of questions. I noticed throughout you mentioned your for-profit partnership with academic partners and AP. My question has to do with the I believe they're called adjunct instructors or adjunct coaches, where you don't anticipate a student to adjunct coach or more than 1 to 10, but at a doctoral program you want students to have access to doctorally prepared instructors and doctorally prepared faculty. So can you tell me a little bit about these adjuncts or the coaches, I know I'm not using the right term, that are going to be provided by the company versus the faculty in the program that are the instructors of record? How are those individuals prepared? And talk to me about the rigor of that interaction.
Okay, thank you. I'll be happy to. Just for clarity, Academic Partnership is a for-profit educational company. Their role in our relationship is more mechanical and functional. They are the experts in putting content online. The content is ours, and we are the subject matter experts. They do have more experience with online education and delivery. Your question about our adjuncts, that is a different company. That is called Instructional Connections, and we contract with them. They find the qualified candidates based on our criteria. Everyone that is an adjunct, even though they come through Instructional Connections, they meet the same hiring qualifications as if we were hiring them to be on campus. They will all be doctorally prepared. They will have the relevant experience that they need for the particular course. And the way the courses are laid out, there are 10 courses, and the first 8 are strictly didactic. And it's in those courses that we will use these adjunct faculties on a 1-to-10 ratio. The last 2 courses are more like your traditional dissertation seminars and things like that. At that point, the students will go to a 1-to-1 basis, just like they would with a single advisor. So that model will be in our program up through the first 8 courses, but the last 2 courses, it will be a 1-to-1 basis, because they'll be doing their projects and their translational research or their quality improvement research.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I have a couple, because I did talk to before coming to Tech, I taught in a nursing program at Angelo State and did work with UTA at the time. So you say the adjuncts will be doctorally prepared. Will that be DNP, EDD, PhD, kind of a mixture of how that will come about? And so if UTA is quote unquote, they're contracting with the company, do those faculty still have to meet the same SACS, COC requirements?
Absolutely.
And you have all of that information on the faculty?
Yes, everything. If we were hiring them as our employee to teach on campus, they will meet those same criteria. That's an absolute. Now, as to your question as to their doctorate, at this particular time, there are not enough doctorally DNP prepared people available to hire. When we started our DNP program, it was started with PhDs, and it has evolved and as we've gotten more DNP on faculty, we are still dominated by PhD faculty, even on our own faculty. So to answer your question, it will be yes. It will be, they will be doctorally prepared. We will seek out DNPs, would be our first choice. Would I turn away a PhD person that is a nurse practitioner, understands the role of a DNP? Absolutely not. I would accept that person as well. We do have the opportunity. We see the CVs and we interview every candidate comes before us before they are accepted as an adjunct faculty.
Dean LaFleur, can you clarify, so at onset, you're moving to 100% online, correct?
Yes, another program. We're not doing away with our on-campus.
But the proposal before our committee is to go 100% online?
Yes,
You're not
ma'am.
doing a phased approach?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Any questions from the committee members on the phone?
No questions.
Okay, we'll be closing discussion at this time for recommendation from committee chair.
Through the summer discussion with the subcommittee, the Doctoral Subcommittee, the recommendation is to approve this proposal from University of Texas Arlington for their online DNP program. So it comes before the full committee as a motion.
Second? It's been moved and seconded. At this point, we will call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Congratulations, UTA. You now have a program for, or approval to pursue a program for DNP. Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And moving on to our final group, Dr. Mock.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I invite my colleagues from the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio to present their proposal to the committee for moving the existing doctorate of nursing practice to over 50% delivered online. I want to be able to introduce this, and my colleagues, Dean Breslin, Dr. Gill, and Ms. Haswinkle. I want to be clear to this full committee, I did not participate in the conversations or the vote at the subcommittee level because of my direct work with this program. So other than opening this discussion and welcoming my colleagues, I might just turn over to you, Madam Chair, for the rest of moving this discussion and recommendation forward. Thank you.
At this time, if you'd like to talk a little bit about your proposal, please.
Breslin, and I am the Dean of the School of Nursing, and my colleagues with me on my left is Ms. Laura Haswinkle, who's our Director of Academic Programs, and to my right is Dr. Sarah Gill, who's the Associate Dean for Graduate Programs. Our program is 5 years old. It had originally started as a hybrid program in which the majority of it was delivered face-to-face and did have online experiences, and now we're requesting the proposal to move forward so that we're over than 50%. We do so at the request of our students because, as we've heard earlier, this is a postmaster's DNP program, and the majority of those are indeed working individuals, and they very much would like to have the flexibility. We do intend to have face-to-face, more of an executive approach so that we do see our students and know our students. So with that, I'm going to turn it over for more specifics to Dr. Gill.
So if you have questions, as Dean Breslin said, it is an executive format. So our students come to campus the first weekend of every semester for all except the last 4 courses. In the last 4 courses, the students are doing their practice projects. So they meet individually with their faculty a number of times throughout the semester. Mostly face-to-face, but some of the students who live in Houston or Austin or Dallas may meet during Skype phone calls. In addition to meeting in an executive format the first weekend of every semester, students also meet with the faculty via Canvas, our online platform, doing Canvas conferences where the faculty interact for 2 hours per class several times throughout the 15-week semester.
Any questions from the group?
And if I could, I'd like to just provide a point of clarification. This program had already been being offered at 49%. If you might have noticed inside your proposals, this was really, since they were going over the 50%, they put in the proposal to be online. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware.
Okay. Hearing no discussion, we will be entertaining a motion for approval as presented for the DNP program at UTHSC.
I'll move.
I'll second. All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, congratulations.
Thank you
very much. And best of luck to you as well. It's always exciting to see new programs coming on board, so best of luck to all the 3 that presented today, UT Arlington and UTHSC. At this time, we will be hearing from Dr. Lofters on some coordinating board updates.
Well, we have 3 updates we wanted to talk about. One of them, the first one is for Sarah. My colleague, Ms. Jessica Acton, is our Sarah representative for the coordinating board. and she is currently at the Sarah portal meeting. So that's why she couldn't be here to give you an update. So I'm going to give you some notes that she gave me. And I will also recommend, if you have some in-depth questions, that you email Jessica, because I'm not as well-versed in the Sarah as she is. That's true. That's true. All right, for Sarah, Texas now has 79 institutions that are participating in Sarah. There are 48 states that have now signed up for Sarah, plus the Virgin Islands that have all signed up for the reciprocity agreement. In Massachusetts, the governor signed a bill allowing the state now to participate in Sarah. I guess that wasn't the case previously. There have been legislative efforts for California to join Sarah have stalled. Now, I'm not sure how much, what stalled really, encompasses, so I might direct you towards California. Do you have?
So my understanding is for California, there is not a body that could actually serve as the portal agency. And that's part of what the problem has been. That there's nobody that, like the coordinating board or that could statutorily take on the portal process.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Dr. Peebles, who's the Assistant Commissioner for Academic Quality and Workforce, and Ms. Acton will present the Texas Sarah renewal application to the SREB Sarah Steering Committee on October 17th. If approved, Texas will remain a Sarah member for the next 2 years. And the coordinating board leadership is still working through how to assess fees to institutions to cover the Sarah affiliation fee with SREB. We talked about this at the last meeting, that we still have a $50,000 Sarah affiliation fee that we still need to be paid. So they're still in the process of working that out, how we can go ahead and assess that fee from institutions. And so for right now, that's what I have from Jessica as far as updates. I'm not sure if anybody in the committee has any other thing from Sarah that you might know, but this is what I have from Jessica.
I would just mention that as a part of kind of the ongoing Sarah discussions, the Texas DLA, Texas Distance Learning Association, in partnership with others, started what I believe is being called TexSAN, which is the Texas State Authorization Network. It's a free group that gets together regularly to discuss state authorization in Texas, and they've actually added people in New Mexico. But because Texas is so large with so many schools and everything going on, that group was formed. Right now, it's being led by a staff member out of my office at Texas Tech, but it's open to all Texas schools to join in the discussions. I know they're going to have one in a few weeks, I believe, in El Paso. And they're pulling in some people from New Mexico, and they're working on a face-to-face meeting as well.
And I believe that Ms. Acton has also been involved with that group, or at least been in contact with them. And any other questions for Sarah? All right, the next one on our updates, I believe, is the distance education portal. Last Friday, we had an email sent out on behalf of our assistant commissioner to chief academic officers, I believe, and presidents of public institutions explaining the portal, what we're trying to do with the portal. Basically, the portal, we said, was going to be a way to streamline an approval process for distance education offerings and modality changes inside the state for existing programs. So we sent that out, and then we explained to the chief academic officers and the chancellors that there needs to be one contact to go into the portal, and there's a way that they could enroll into the portal and then have access to see all their programs and update them. We gave them until October 15th, I believe it was, to have their information updated inside the distance education portal. Then after that point, we'll start doing some approvals through the portal. We're still looking at ways to make sure that all the approvals and letters and so forth will go to the institutions, especially for the off-campus approvals. We now have also on the coordinating board website a distance edge search feature where you can look at all the publics and see what they're now offering through distance ed. We're still in the process of looking at it, which I found through this whole process that you really can't tell all the things that you really want to have inside these programs until you actually start making them work with people in the field. So I can show you, my plan was just to show you where this distance ed search feature is, and you can start to look at what people are doing and what the offerings that they have out there right now. I have it, well, it was over there. On the coordinating board website, if you go to the home page, you will go to the left on this banner underneath the 60 by 30, and there is a title that says Data, Resources, and Tools. And what you do is you just click on that link, and it'll take you to the Higher Education Coordinating Board data page, which is a plethora of knowledge. There's all kinds of data on here. You can find anything. If you go to where it says courses, program, it's right underneath online applications, and there's a link that says courses and program inventories. And then once you get to this page, you would go to a program inventory. Now we have a new link that's on the program inventory that says distance education program search. From here, you can choose, now, and I had to restrict the categories that you could use because, one, we don't right now we don't take acceptance or approval information for distance education programs from privates. So the parts that had privates, I had to take them off for right now. I mean, unless we can talk about something in the future, but right now we don't have any approval process for privates. So you can choose what type of modality you want to look at inside the state. You can also choose the type of institution. You can choose the degree level you want to look at, and you can choose an actual discipline zip code. So you can see exactly if I wanted to look at, say, for instance, nursing, as we saw this morning, who has those type of programs. Now, right now, it's sort of clunky as until we get everybody's information updated up through October 15th. So once that comes into play, once that gets done, then we should have a pretty fairly accurate accounting of what distance ed programs are out in the state through public institutions. One thing we did notice just recently, and it's just, as I said, by using or sending it out to the field and having them give us feedback, is that we have to fix a little glitch in it where when you do certain changes, so for instance, if I did this yesterday, if I changed a department for a program, this isn't picking it up as just changing a department. It sees it as closing first. And then I have to go in and go fix it. So that's something we're now going to get that corrected before that October 15th time so everybody will be able to see everything. And if you see from your institutions, especially from the Ltac, anything that you see that is not working correctly, please let me know so I can go ahead and try to fix this inside the portal. But if you wanted to, you could just look at all the 100% online. And I want to look at, yes, sir.
Quick side note, like some of the JavaScript that's supposed to handle the HTML that function, I believe.
Oh,
Just to let you know.
thank you. I'll look into that one too. No, but I got the idea. It's the stuff there underneath the buttons. It's missing something down there. So now it worked yesterday, so I'm going to try it again. So if I wanted to look at public universities, and I wanted to look at degree level, baccalaureate. I don't know if I want to go through a zip code or not. I don't have one offhand. Let's do this. 13th zip code I know is education, which we shouldn't have any in baccalaureate because you can't have those in the state of Texas. So we're going to change to public universities, and we're going to say this is going to be a master's degree. And we're going to look at what types of education courses are offered 100% online from public universities, and hopefully it works. So then you can look and see from which institutions. And thank you, because it took a little while. All right, but now you can be able to see what type, and you can get more specific to say specific zip codes and specific education programs. The ones that will be able to be loaded into the portal will only go through master's degree, through the institution. Doctoral programs will still have to go through us. Then they can be loaded into the portal. There you go. Any questions on that so far? Yes.
So say that again in terms of the distinction on master's, through the master's degree level, entering in, and then the coordinating board entering doctoral.
The doctoral programs, because that's going to go through, especially if it's a new program and it's online, that has to go through us. If it's going, they can't approve a doctoral program just through the normal process as you would a bachelor's and master's,
right,
where I can just look and see that you've done area notifications. Do I have any objections? And the program itself will not allow me to approve an off-campus program for at least 30 days, because I have to go through that off-campus period for objections. Then I can put it in. Now, doctoral's different. You might want to try to load it in, but it's going to go into a pending, especially in off-campus.
So we can complete our inventory of currently approved, make sure everything's in there, but for the purposes of any new program or any change, let's say any of the presentations today, they'd go through, but the coordinating board would be the activator for putting it in the inventory.
I'll put that in, correct.
I have a question regarding the notifications.
Yes.
Seems like the last time I went in there, the notifications weren't really sending anything to the, so when you put in the areas that it would be shared with, there wasn't anything going to those areas. I mean, they literally have to go in and look to see if there's a notification pending.
You wouldn't see in the portal any notifications. The only person that gets notifications at this current time is staff at the coordinating board. We'll see it. So because when you do area notifications, according to our policy, you send it to the institutions, and for distance ed, institutions and centers, that's what it says currently in policy, within 50 miles of the teaching site. When you do that, that's copied to, according to the policy right now, me. So then when the notification is sent and I get a copy, I have record of it inside the AQW, the Academic Quality and Workforce email system. Anybody in staff who's doing one of those type of approvals can go into that folder and look and see, has any notification been given? And if any objection has been submitted, it also goes into that folder. And usually if someone objects, they'll send it back to me. I'll get that pretty regularly. So that's why you won't see any notifications in the portal. You'll just see what they've proposed, and really you won't even see what is pending for me to approve until I approve it, and then it'll come up on this. Then you'll see it.
Andrew, is it possible to get a workflow together, a workflow document that just basically overviews these things with these changes, where approvals would go, notification still has to be followed, just a quick glimpse when this does get distributed, just so that we don't get confused on, well, I put it in the portal and I thought that was going to notify everyone, so I'm clear. Yes. That way there's a very clear distinction between that and we're still following all the guidelines that we need to. That would be very helpful.
We were working on that between now and the 15th. And I envision trying to do a webinar for it, so that people can see sort of what we did with the higher education regional councils, do the same type of thing, especially for the people who have access to the portal. And that way there you can see, these are the things you have to do to get the approval. Now, there have been concerns about institutions who are in system institutions, because the system would like to have control over, what is coming through as far as approval and distance ed and what is being offered. So we're working on it now. I'm looking at the options, because right now we don't have a feature inside the portal that will give a system the ability to view multiple institutions. So currently, my idea is one option would be if the system wanted to take care of all things that are being inputted into the portal through their approval process. The system has an approval process for institutions. It goes through the system approval process. It goes to the person who's at the top of the system, who would be in control of the portal. And they could enter that in for each of the system institutions. That's one option. The issue is that each FICE code, or your code for your campus, has to be matched with a unique email address. So I couldn't take, if I was at the system level, and I had 5 institutions, each of them have a different FICE code, I couldn't take my email and match it with each of the different 5 FICE codes. The system won't allow you to do it. What you could do is if you had 5 different emails, you could have 5 different institutions underneath you. That's possible. The other option would be that institutions within a system would follow their system approval process, and when it goes through the approval process in the system then tells it, okay, you've been approved, now go enter your information into the portal. So we're still working on that right now, the system. So that's one of the things that has come out ever since we started.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
The programs that we're looking at now all say 100% online. And when you were going through one of the previous screens where you select the modality for programs,
yes.
I know, are you able to designate, I'm just thinking because we just monitored all of audited all of our distance programs, and, okay, so you could select, I see, you could select 86 to 99% online or hybrid blended.
Correct. If you have those and you have that inside your inventory for your institution.
So in other words, we have a list of programs that are approved for online, but that's just based on 50% or more. The approval is just based on 50% or more delivery online. And whenever we did the audit, there are not that many online programs that actually are 100% online with us. So that's the reason for, but it appears as though they can be designated based on the actual percentage.
Correct. When the person goes into the portal, and I think you were on there because I know we talked about this.
Right.
When the person goes into the portal, they can choose whatever modality they want. If they want to put it as fully online, which is the 85 to 99%, they can choose that for that course, and that's how it will show up in the portal. And in the public search feature, it'll also show up that way as well. Any other questions? And I will get back with you with, and like I said, we will get back together again about the workflow. I'll write that down on my notes, as well as trying to set up a webinar. Yes.
My only question is regarding institutional access. You can have more than one.
There's one per institution.
One per institution.
You have to. Now, in fact, that does come up. Sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes when people see a portal and it says create an account, they just create an account and they try to get into the portal. So I might see sometimes that someone at an institution who doesn't know who their actual, I call the person a portal manager, who their institutional portal manager is, they try to put themselves in as well. But see, I now have a system where I can see for each institution who is already inside there. And I will then call the institution and say, you already have this person in. This one has asked for permission. What do you want to do? And then they'll tell me. And I've already done that once already. But it's just only one per institution. Oh, and there's one other one too. I was looking when I went to the search feature, that when we go to off campus, and I'm gonna see if it's possible, it doesn't tell the address or where it is I would like to put that out there, where the place is that the off-campus program is being delivered. I think that's important. That's it for the portal.
Any other questions or discussion on the portal? We highly encourage everyone to go in and start exploring. I know several of us have, just to continue that opportunity and also identify who your portal manager is on your respective campuses. It may be you. So if you don't know that, it's probably good to find out. But that way, at least you understand as if we're targeting the right person for portal management and so forth.
And if you are a portal manager, you would know, because I think you have to sign up through the CB Pass system. You have to sign up. The next one for updates is Open Educational Resources Grant Program and Feasibility Study. My colleague, Dr. Doug Jansen.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Doug Jansen. I'm with Academic Quality and Workforce, and Andrew has asked me to share a brief update about open educational resources as contained in Senate Bill 810 that was passed this last session. The bill essentially does two things that pertain to higher. It's a huge bill, and the first part deals with K through 12. The second part deals with higher education. The part that deals with higher education does two things. It creates an open educational resources grant program to be administered by the coordinating board. And that grant program, is to encourage faculty at institutions of higher education to adopt, modify, redesign, or develop courses that use only open educational resources. Okay, so she was very specific when she drafted the legislation what she wanted to happen. Okay. The second part mandates that the coordinating board undertake a feasibility study for assessing the feasibility for creating a repository, a state repository for open educational resources. So there's two parts. There's the grant program and then the feasibility study, and we've been tasked with both. The grant program was regarded or is regarded as a pilot program. There's a 2-year budget of $200,000, $100,000 in each year of the biennium. And we are currently in negotiated rulemaking. These are trusteed funds, so we have to do rulemaking for it. And we are putting together those committees. They should meet, I think, late October, early November. Okay, and that'll set the allocation methodology, and we'll proceed from there. The ideal would be to get that approved by the board in January, and then put an RFA out in March, have those applications due by April, have awards made soon after that so that faculty interested in this program can proceed fall 2018. And if that's ambitious, spring at the latest. Okay. The feasibility study has also been allocated $100,000 to conduct the study. That is due to the legislature September 1st, 2018. And the study is to consider methods for facilitating public access to open educational resources, resources that would be needed to create the repository, and then any potential challenges in creating such a repository. I mean, those are the broad charges for the feasibility study. The statute mandates that certain stakeholders be included in these discussions. And those stakeholders include relevant state agencies, so us, TEA, maybe the Texas State Library, textbook publishers, representatives of the OER community, other stakeholders, specifically the TEA, other institutions of higher education, and representatives from independent school districts. So it's a pretty broad array of interests. Okay. The result of that study will be a final report that informs the legislature on methods by which OER would be gathered and curated, should such a repository be put into place, measures to ensure public access to the repository, methods to encourage public use of the repository, management, specifically regarding intellectual property rights, and any other measures necessary to the repository's success. Okay? And that's it, those two things, the grant program and the feasibility study. Are there any questions?
A lot of questions.
Oh, okay.
So the $100,000 is only for the feasibility study.
Go ahead.
And then the findings would actually outline possibly the outsourcing for there definitely have to be a management database, and where will it live, and so all those questions are to be addressed in that feasibility study.
Yes, the feasibility study has been allocated $100,000 to do the study. Presumably, the study would contain an estimate of costs for all the things that you just mentioned, yeah.
I believe TEA is already running with an OER system that they've published, so that's why I was curious on the backside,
Okay.
what all the conversations were.
Yeah, we are still putting together the list of stakeholders, so that's actually good to know. There's somebody to contact. Any other questions? Okay. We will keep you updated as the process unfolds. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Okay, and as they do progress, please do keep us informed. And if there's anything we can do to assist in the process, please don't hesitate to let us know. The next item, and I think we'll probably cover this and then divide groups and do as we did last time, where we have a working lunch to work with our committee groups. That was very fruitful last time. So this is an item that was brought forth by one of the previous members of the Ltac for discussion. So Dr. Lofters, I'll have you talk about the definition of online delivery modalities.
Okay. The question was posed, why do we have these different online delivery definitions inside the state of Texas? And whether or not a fully online program could actually be just considered 100% instead of having the 15% leeway, and then just have everything else be hybrid from 50 to 99. So I started to do some research, and I put inside your packet Christina put inside your packet for me, 2 pieces of paper. One of them was Chapter 4 rules, definitions for Chapter 4, Subchapter P. This is for online education. And this is where online is housed inside the Texas Texas Administrative Code rules. And if you notice, I was thinking at first that the definition was just through policy. But if you notice on the second page of it, the back of the first one, it gives the actual definitions in rules for fully online, hybrid blended courses. So since it is in a rule, it would take a rule change to actually change the definitions inside Texas and the state. I also added inside your packet a little short paragraph of what is actually in the policy, which was interesting. And we still have the 85 to 100% is fully, 50 to 85 is hybrid blended. And as long as you have more than 50%, you are considered, distance education. My question, and when I looked to SACS to see if SACS had a different definition, it just basically says, once you're 50% or more, you're considered distance. I looked through old records to try to find out where the fully and hybrid blended definitions that we have came from, and I just haven't been able to put my fingers on them yet. So the question was, do we have any interest in visiting these in the state? And Rex, I'm not sure if you wanted to say anything on this at all. Then we're good. No, we were just talking about the the change, whether or not we wanted to look at the definition of online. Remember, I think we mentioned this, but we talked about this previously. There was one of the members had made the suggestion, maybe we should look at fully online just being 100% and have everything else underneath it be hybrid of some sort. And I was explaining that, SACS has one definition. Basically, once you're past 50%, in fact, it's not to say 50, a majority of your course is not in the same place. You are distance. So my question here, and I'm not saying that we had to make a decision today. I just want to see the interest in going in, maybe researching what other definitions there are, and do we have any interest in looking at maybe revising these for the state, or do we want to leave them the way it is? I mean, I think that was the question that we have, and I think Josh sort of touched on it when we were looking at the portal and talking about the different modalities you could choose for all online. Because in our policy as well, basically once you get past 50, you are online. It's just a matter of which one online you are. So I'm not sure if the committee wants to address this in the future, or do you have any input now that I could bring back and then get some materials for you so that we can address this at a future meeting? Or what is your pleasure on this one, Janet?
This is Janet, Janet Camps. I would very much like to have this discussion, simply because I'm sure most, if not all of us, have had, conversations with students saying, well, it says fully means complete, but it's not really complete, so it's not true, and then we have the truth in advertising. And I know this has been discussed in previous years at this committee, and I would like to see it happen again, just for sake of clarity for our students in Texas.
And this is Josh Book again. I'd like to follow up on what Janet said, in that I think we all have had those discussions with students, and if the committee is not, the administrative code is the administrative code, so, it may well be beyond our purview to be changing definitions, but perhaps we could give some guidance on, we might work on adopting some language and sort of push that to the institutions if we don't work on the definitions themselves.
I'm going to put in my 2 cents worth, because that 100% online and fully online does come across often, especially in the marketing. And if we can, I think where we have as a practice identified that 100% online, that 85% to 100%, it's until you get into the details that you don't know that 15%. So having unified definition and a point of this is what we recognize would be helpful. And I don't think we can push fully 100%, which is what's lacking now in the code. So I think it may just be a definition change from the coordinating board on what you're going to handle on your separate databases, searches.
Right. Well, right now the database reflects the rules. So which we'd have to, in order to change the definition and rule, we'd have to go through the whole rulemaking process, where we'd have public comment, and the same thing we do for any kind of rule change.
But the 100% is not on the rule.
The 100% is not on it, and that's a good point. And the reason being, when this first started, when I first was given this task for the distance education portal, I noticed that there was no 100% really in our rule, but we were asking for it because I think they wanted to have that for a portal for the coordinating board to show people these things are 100%, that you don't have to have any kind of on-campus attendance. You can do it without on-campus attendance. The only things that I see, and I haven't really thought it all the way through yet, is that sometimes, in the current scheme, sometimes programs may start off, I haven't started off as a face-to-face, may start off face-to-face, but like inadvertently slip into hybrid blended, right? And then it's not, and they're not trying to be deceptive at all. It's just inadvertently, just after an amount of time, Professor A has now added 2 courses that are online instead of the one he had before. And now Professor C has 3. And so now you're hybrid blended. And then inadvertently, a year later, with the same type of scenario, you're now fully. So I was wondering how that might impact whether or not we want to change it. I mean, if we had it as just hybrid underneath that 100%, where there was just hybrid blended from 50 to 99, then there wouldn't be any slips, except for, slipping from face to face into that category. But, it's up to the committee. I'd like to hear your,
I was just going to add into the talking point regarding the definition and the rule that a lot of the language in this first handout you gave us was written in 2010, and this was before MIT and Harvard launched their EDX program. MOOCs kind of became this commonplace way of students taking content online. And so my point to that is the fact that just the general concept of what online means and the growth of the internet, 7 years is crazy fast in terms of technology and the online space. So I do really think that eventually we do need to consider a movement to 100% meaning online, because students and anybody who has a mobile device or an online connected device is going to start to expect that online means 100% online versus I'm going to have to physically appear in that space. And I think that that's because of the changing landscape of what we can expect and anticipate from online education in general, whether it's in the state or just globally.
Now, just for clarification, when you're saying online, you mean fully online? Okay, fully online. I just want to make sure.
The 100%.
Right. And I think to Mark's point, we certainly have in the rules a parsing of every flavor that has gone, that is clearly very dated in there. And you could be going in many different directions depending on your audience. And to your point, Andrew, of how does it evolve over time in a dynamic way from the faculty member in the curriculum, and then you're always in this catch-up, again, not because of any malintent, but to say, oh, we just moved from this box to another box, and then you're constantly behind. I think as we look at this, my hope would be that we try to anticipate what a future might look like and not create any more definitions that actually make it worse than make it better.
And I guess to complicate the matter even further, we've got also, now we have, and I'm sure y'all do at your schools too, you've got a lot of people that are teaching a, quote, face-to-face or on-ground or whatever you want to call it class, but they're heavily dependent on the LMS. And so they're in that below 50% category, but they may be 49% online. They're just that far away from being a hybrid. And does it make any sense to begin to take a look at that? Because now we're kind of on a continuum, and a move from a 40% online class to an 80% online class could happen in one semester, and the faculty member doesn't, like you were talking about, doesn't really know that they've even done that. But now you've got a class that you didn't really know it was, quote, online, but now it is. And so these categories get kind of crazy, but it is kind of continuum. It really is, a face-to-face faculty member could move to an online class without even knowing it, as they just changed, what they do, So it's complicated. We don't want to make it any more complicated, I think, is the thing.
I think that would be a good idea. And I also want us to keep just to think about, do we want to look at making a system that mirrors SACs, because that's what you report? I'm not sure if that's one or not. Do we want to just go to a majority and then, as you said, fully online, 100%? These are the questions that I just want to bring up.
The better you align, the simpler I think it would be. Mm-hmm. That's just my thought, if we could align it all the way across SACs and course.
So what I'm hearing is a lot of exciting future discussions that we will have on the topic, but more than likely a call for a committee to be able to really focus on the definitions that will work in partnership with updating the PGP and all of these things. Our goal is to really streamline the information that we're distributing to individuals, not complicate things, but simplify them as best as we can using our digital mediums. So that will be a very nice segue into our next item, which is to look at our subcommittees that we currently have in effect for the LTAC, having added this next one for definition review. And since we did get a change in membership, this is a good time to redistribute effort going in and maybe get some co-chairs in place. A lot of the time, subcommittees work a lot better when there are two people leading in case one person gets extremely busy. Not that we're not all extremely busy at our jobs, but gets a little distracted and needs to be provided some assistance. So we probably will be doing that as well, establishing some co-chairs for these committees. So I'd like to turn your attention to the Ltac Subcommittees handout that is in your packet. This lists the previous membership of our subcommittees and the current projects that we do have. So currently, we have the Distance Education Doctoral Proposal Review Subcommittee, which is of critical importance, as you clearly saw in the start of today's meeting. We have the Principles of Good Practice Review and Update Subcommittee. We had an ad hoc committee, which we probably need to revisit, for HERCS and the 50-mile radius, which did accomplish quite a bit last year. And then we have our Learning Technology Survey Subcommittee, and now we have our Definitions Review Committee. So you're looking at a total of 5 committees that we really will focus on. There's also an opportunity to create some others, but we also want to be mindful of everyone's work, and we want to have things that we can start and accomplish at a really good place. So at this time, we do have the listed members that were previously assigned to these committees or volunteered for these committees. So if you'll take a little bit to see if you want to continue in that committee, or if you want to change it up a little bit and go to a different one, try something new, or if you want to lead one of these committees. So I'll give you a quick minute just to kind of review where you want to focus your efforts, and then I will call for membership. So before we get too deep into thought, let's look at, are these the 5 that we want to continue with at this time?
Now, just to, you missing that? Oh, no, the last, she wrote that one in, The Distance Ed Doctoral Subcommittee is a standing committee, so that one doesn't change. It's always going to be there. And these are just, and I've already gone through and taken off all the members that have rotated off the committee, so now you're seeing actual membership that is currently on the LTAC.
So I think because of all the work the HERT group did last year, and that was kind of ad hoc, we could probably do away with that one for the time being, and if we need to revisit, we could come back. But I would recommend deleting that ad hoc group, at least for right now.
Is everyone in agreement with that, or is there anyone that really would like to see this committee continue? Okay. So now we are back down to 4. I will start off by calling for chairs or co-chairs, actually, of subcommittees, starting with the Distance Education Doctoral Proposal Committee. At this time, Dr. Mock chairs that committee, and we'd like to see if anyone would like to volunteer to co-chair that committee, or if you would be willing to keep that chair appointment. Dr. Mock.
I'm happy to keep the appointment, but if somebody wants to co-chair with me, I certainly don't mind.
Everyone's so eager this morning. Deep in thought, that's good. Dr. Mock, you are going to do some advertising and marketing within your group for a co-chair, but congratulations, you will be chairing this one more time. Now,
you, however, need committee members.
That is correct. We'll establish chairs and then we'll proceed with the membership, but you are right, you do need some members on that one. The PGP subcommittee group, it has a large group, as I'm seeing, and I am currently chairing that group. I would sincerely appreciate a co-chair on that one due to taking on the chairship of the actual LTAC at this point. So I would sincerely appreciate if someone volunteered to be the chair. I would also welcome that. It's an exciting committee. It is going to just change how we do things. So this is an opportunity for you to really enjoy some work.
I'll assist.
Okay, Dr. Burgess, we will have you as co-chair. Wonderful. And now for the Learning Technology Survey Subcommittee, we did have Patrick Plush that was leading that, but now we will be needing a chair of that committee group.
And I really think it should come from, and this is just my opinion, from somebody who's already been on there, because you've been working on it with Patrick on that whole platform that he was working on. He has offered to, work with the subcommittee in a consultant role just to help out and still work on that survey. So I talked with him yesterday.
Dr. Lauder, you've done a lot of work with that. Would you like to assume the leadership position for that?
Sure.
Great. I'd already written you in. Okay. And now our newest committee, the Definitions Review Committee. Would anyone like to volunteer to chair that?
I was actually going to volunteer to be Dr. Lauder's co-chair.
Oh, excellent.
For the Learning Technology Survey Subcommittee.
Okay. Definitions Review Committee Chair? Oh.
Have members?
No, we just,
No, at this point, we're just getting the chairs, and then we're going to appoint or volunteer for committees. Are members on the phone? I know. Dr. Garcia, would you like to chair the Definitions Review Committee?
I'm actually part of the PGP committee.
Okay, we'll let that group find their chair when they get into their rhythm of meeting, and we'll go from there. So now, volunteers for, we're going to go through the list again. We'll start with the Definitions Review Committee, volunteers for the review committee. And we'll probably have about four to start.
If you can hear me?
Yes.
This is Dina on the phone. I would love to volunteer for that committee.
Okay.
And I'll volunteer for that committee.
Okay.
Janet Camps, I'll volunteer as well for that committee.
Okay, so that gives us 4 at this time. Moving on to the Learning Technology Survey Subcommittee. We may not continue with these. We're starting membership appointments again in general, so even if you're already listed on a committee, we'd like to reaffirm that you want to participate in that committee. You may want to spend your efforts now on something else, so it's open to participation.
This is Lydia, and I'd like to stay on that committee.
Okay, great.
Alicia Wyatt, I'll stay on the committee.
Okay.
I'll stay on the committee.
Okay. And that puts you at 5, I think. Great. Mhm. Principles of Good Practice Subcommittee.
I would like to join that committee.
Excellent. PGP.
Francisco also on the PGP.
Okay.
I also want to join.
Okay. Anna? You as well? Okay. And now the Distance Education Doctoral Proposal Review Committee.
This is Jimmy Bird. I'd like to stay on that committee.
Okay. Lydia, volunteer. Okay, Pam? And we will reach out to our members that are not present today or anyone else that needs to join a committee at this time. Okay, and like I mentioned, we'll follow up with our members that are not present today. So what we like to normally do is break for lunch. That's always one of our favorite parts of the meeting. But we usually do working groups to do as much as we can face-to-face to work on our specific committees. We would like to do that again today, so I don't know if the food is here. I believe it is. Okay, so we will go ahead and break for lunch and committee work for... Normally we do about, what, 30, 45?
Start, right now it's 12. Entire meeting is until 2:30. Scheduled.
So
1:30 till, so it's 12, so till 1?
To 1? Is an hour good, so we can go ahead and grab lunch and have our discussions? Okay, so if you can go ahead and go into your subgroups, this is always a fun and exciting time to reach out to our members that are on the phone, if someone can communicate with them via cell, or if we have a way of communicating with the group. And now let's find the areas that we can separate to.
We can go into this next one.
Okay. So we will find where we are in a little bit. As soon as Dr. Lofters will find out if there's a room, then we just split up the auditorium. Individuals on the phone, does someone within your committee have your contact information to be able to get a hold of you for discussion? Dr. Garcia?
We can get.
I think we have yours. Dr. Bird, I think we have your contact information on the list, and as well as Dr. Coates. So we can easily try that number. If it's a different one, just feel free to let us know. We'll get offline at this time and reconvene at 1. think the whole group is back now. Are our members that were on the phone, do we still have you connected at this time? Someone dialed in earlier.
This is Dina. I'm back on and everything seems fine.
Great, thank you. Okay. Okay, so at this time, we'll go ahead and reconvene and start off with a little bit of a summary from each committee over the discussion that occurred during the lunch hour. So at this time, Dr. Mock, if you want to talk a little bit about yours.
We decided not to meet. We have good protocols in place, and we're very excited about the new committee members who are joining.
That was good. That was good. Okay, thank you. PGP, Dr. Burgess.
Well, okay, you threw me there. Burgess. Yeah.
Sorry.
And not a doctor either. So let's start from the beginning. We are going to have individual groups, pairs, validating the documentation that's already been done. Looks like the heavy lifting has already been done. And then reconvene at the end of the month to prepare for distribution, which will be targeting into October. Distribution to groups such as the HERC for discussion on a final draft of the Principles of Good Practice.
Moving into Dr. Louder with the Learning Technology Survey Committee.
So our discussion centered around kind of the logistics to send it out. And talking to Andrew, what we would like to do is wait until mid-October to send the survey out, because that is when the schools are supposed to get back with the coordinating board with the DE program contacts. And so what we would like to do is wait for that information and then send the survey out to chief academic officers and the DE portal contacts for public schools. And then we are getting the list, and I cut independent colleges and universities of Texas, which would be the private schools. And McMurray is going to help us get the list of DE program contacts and provosts from private schools that we can then send the survey out to them. Our thought is we will send it out toward the end of October. It would be due back before Thanksgiving would be the first round. And then a second round for anyone that did not respond, or giving people a second try, would go out after Thanksgiving until the end of the fall semester. Then the committee would get together and evaluate what has come in and do some very basic data analysis and present a high-level report at our first meeting in the spring, hopefully sometime in February. We also kind of decided that Andrew, myself, and then Patrick, since he has volunteered to continue to work with us on this, will get together and kind of talk about logistics and how to send it out. Because this was housed with UNT, using the UNT Qualtrics system, we want to use that again so that we can have some longitudinal data that we can evaluate.
I would like to add, I was thinking to myself, if you put new questions inside of the survey, I probably would have to run it in front of my data collection committee. So as long as you just give it to me and I can get that in front of them.
Because I believe the committee, the last meeting came up with a handful of new questions. I'm getting nods from the people that were on the meeting last time. So they refined some questions in that. So we may need to reach out to Patrick to get the updated survey document, unless somebody from the committee last time has that document.
I think he when I talked to him yesterday, he was working on that, putting his questions in there. So I'll get back in contact with Patrick.
Okay, and our final committee, we'll start with our definitions review chair. Did we find a chair for the committee? Did we find co-chairs for the committee?
We didn't even discuss that. We just.
Okay,
But I
that's
can
good.
tell you what we worked, how we decided to progress.
Okay.
We talked about the common problem that institutions have is that institutions tend to put the state or SAC's definition on their websites, which can lead to confusion among students. But we decided that since this is a new working group, we'd like to sort of establish a baseline of what definitions are there. So Janet is going to, from her unit, is going to look at some definitions from other states, including states within SACs, to see how they're defining the distance learning and the different levels of distance learning. I'll look at, what am I looking at? I'm looking at definitions from other accrediting bodies besides SACs. And we're also looking at some institution websites to see if there are institutions that seem to do it particularly well in a way that is clear to students. So, and Janet, please contribute or let me know if I missed anything.
Oh, that is the substance and pretty much sum total of what we talked about.
So co-chair and chair, or co-chairs?
Sure.
Excellent.
Co-chairs, how's that, Josh?
That's the best way to.
Dina?
We were going to mute your microphones at the time that you said no. So, okay. So welcome, and there you go. What we would like to do, and we encourage with all of these different committees, is to keep in mind what the other groups are working on to see if there's any type of connectivity and connect with the specific tasks that you're doing. A key example of this would be the Definitions Committee and the PGP. We're going to make sure that those documents are definitely aligned with each other as we move forward. So again, if there's any data that needs to be collected for any one of these things, we may want to look at the survey committee. So the idea is that we communicate with each other about everything that we're doing to find those pieces that do align well. And it seems that we have a nice, strong working agenda for the next year. So thank you guys so much in advance for the hard work that you will be committing to with all of these different committees. Now we are going to have some discussion about future agenda items and meeting dates. Dr. Lofters?
So what I'm hearing for future agenda items, are we planning on, for the subcommittee for the definitions, are we planning on bringing that back for our subcommittee, or just to talk as subcommittees still and not bring it up as an agenda item yet? It's more of it sounded like you're more of a data collection.
Right now, we're just in the data collection, so I think that would be perhaps the next one beyond.
Okay. So, okay, good question. You want to do the dates first and then?
Let's do that so we can find how far along we should be with our.
We're trying to have dates as far out as we possibly can. So now I'm looking at the next few meeting dates. We had put some tentative dates on the calendar when the boardroom was available. I think I mentioned before, we have to have it in the boardroom so that we can have this televised and streamed out to the field. I was looking at, for November 10th would be one. I want to see if anybody has any big objection right now, if they know what their calendar looks like at that time. But it's 2 weeks, it's a Friday, November 10th. It's 2 weeks prior to, is that Veterans Day? That is Veterans Day. So then, I don't believe, I know if the third, we close on Veterans Day, because I've had situations where I have had meetings on a Veterans Day, and Rex actually accompanied me, even though he was really supposed to be off. Yeah. All right, so then if I'm not looking at them, the only one I see, I have to see if there's another date, if the boardroom is open that date. We have the 3rd or the 17th. Those are the other 2 dates. After that, I would like to, because it makes it easier for some of the members to attend. You have a conflict? How about the 17th? Because if not, I can check to see if we have anything available on the 17th. Now, if I can't find those Fridays, I'll have to look at another day. Now, if I do look at another day, I'd probably look at maybe a Monday or something, so that it's closer to the weekend. You don't take as much time away from campus. That was my. Now, I'm not sure. Is Monday a bad time for you as well? Because I remember the. You can do the phone conference. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. So I'm gonna look and see if the boardroom is available that day. If not, I'll start looking at Mondays and I'll give you some contact.
So the time frame would be November for our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
The next
so-
one's November.
So knowing that part, now let's look at agenda items. Knowing the work that your committees are currently doing, would the November date be one that we need to add an agenda item for the working committee?
We could.
So we're adding definition to the agenda.
So now, would that be just an agenda item as we have right now, where we meet as a subcommittee and everybody comes back and reports, or this is something separate that we want to discuss and have?
An actual...
Something that we have to consider or vote on?
I think we're hoping to get more members too, and thinking that, because we only have 3 right now, and I think we'd like at the next meeting that some of the folks who aren't here may join our subcommittee. So I think it would be good for the subcommittee to do the same thing we did today. But if we're the only subcommittee meeting, and that throws off the meeting, the general meeting and the other subcommittees, I think we're flexible.
Yeah, we're flexible, and we may be doing, some interacting, behind the scenes, and then come here, with a more present group.
Jacqueline?
Are you going to bring the final draft of the GPG updates here before it goes out to vetting to the broader community? What was the...
We're distributing it electronically to the group before we send it out to the entire group, which we're hoping, or the other groups to review by mid-October is when we're looking to have that launched for the other groups for distribution. But before then, electronically, it will be sent to this group. Because we're hoping to do it before the November timeframe.
Okay. So how would you like to invite feedback from the rest of the Ltac?
Same exact thing, electronic.
Okay.
We'll send it out for review, and then you can send information and feedback back electronically as well. The working group, I think, will keep on the agenda as an item. I think that works really well for us to get some stuff done that really needs attention. So we can get that on the agenda just to keep that on there. Okay. Committee working groups. As far as coordinating board updates, probably the 3 items that you covered today, progress updates on those would be beneficial as well. Any other items, informational pieces, things that we would like to be involved in or know about?
Now, I have not currently received a new doctoral program that I know I have to go back and look for distance ed consideration. But if there is one, that would require an agenda item. So that as soon as that comes out, I'll send that out to the subcommittee and let you know. I'll let the both of you know.
And Andrew, I think based on the presentation we had, the OER group that the coordinating board is forming, that should probably have met by the time we meet again in November. So maybe some kind of update on that, if they wouldn't mind.
Okay.
So I think that's something that we're probably all interested in.
That's going to be, really, I'd probably keep that along with just the updates like we have now. Okay, that's fine.
Think we might possibly have any information about how the $50,000 would be reapportioned among the members by then?
I'll put that on my list to go ahead.
That's a budget time, and it would be useful to help plan.
Okay.
Any additional items, topics for discussion for next agenda? Okay, at this time, we will be bringing the meeting to a close if we have a motion to adjourn. Second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This will be fun. Okay, meeting is adjourned. We'll see you next time. Thank you guys so much. Be safe.